Good evening. This is John Bailey with Peter Katz and Jim Beneroff. This is People to be Heard, the program where people who have something to say have their say. Tonight, you've got White Plains Councilwoman Milagros Lecuona, first elected to the Common Council in 2007, re-elected in 2011 and 2015, who is challenging Mayor Tom Roach in the White Plains Democratic primary September 12th for the Democratic nomination to run in November. She already has been nominated by the Republican Party to run for mayor. First, Ms. Lecuona, thank you for being on the program. And what changes do you feel in city policies will be more effective in growing the city?
Well, thank you very much, the three of you, for having me here today. This is not my first time in the show, and it's always my pleasure to be here and talk about issues that we are dealing with in White Plains. As you are aware, I am an urban planner and I am a trained architect. And I have been now, this is my 10th year in the City Council. So there is a lot that can be done different and that can be done much better. We, for example, don't have an updated comprehensive plan. And this administration had 7 years to start doing this. And the comprehensive plan is such an amazing tool because it will bring all the cities of White Plains, all the residents of White Plains together to see where we are going in the next 10 years and bring a vision so that things that are happening right now with spot zoning don't happen. You talk about changes. Well, how about having term limits so that we have a real democracy in place and elected officials like mayors and city council members are going to be working for the residents, moving White Plains forward in a very, very democratic platform. Yeah. So when it comes to vision, I could start talking about issues, and I'm pretty sure that those are all in your lists. But what is happening with our downtown? Why we have so many vacant stores, and the type of stores that also we are attracting. We don't have this variety in the type of stores. Is that because of our parking policies? Is that because of the reinforcement of our parking policies? What is all this development that this administration is going to be doing for us, the residents? What is there for us, the benefits?
If there's one thing that forced you to make the decision to run against Mayor Roach, who is well established in that office, what would it be? What was your prime motivation in doing this?
My prime motivation is transparency. We have right now an administration in place that is not responsive, deals behind doors, no residents' participation whatsoever, hiding documents, and this administration had lost the trust of the people. And I want to bring that good government back in place. And I think that the residents of White Plains, in my 10 years in the Common Council, they have witnessed that I have been an independent mind and a person of integrity, and I think I have built a relationship with the residents of White Plains of trust.
How is it that the Republicans came after you? You've been a Democrat for
all my life.
So how do you end up on the Republican ticket?
Well, exactly because of what I just mentioned. This is what they told me. They said, Councilwoman, we have been witnessing how you have been delivering, and you show that you are really for good government, for the good things that could happen to the city. You don't approve rubber stamping. You do your homework. Again, I am an urban planner, and I have passion for all these things that has to do with the development of cities. So that's my profession. I love to talk about what we can do in White Plains with our commissioners, but I do have 35 years of experience in construction and in planning. So, and I have that experience and that background because that's my passion. So for me to do that, it's an honor, but it's also fun. Right. So I go around the city looking at things, and immediately my brain works like, how can we do this better? Why haven't we been doing this? Why our sidewalks are like this and not like that? Why our trees are not being kept in a different way? Why do we have to be, dealing with dangerous bike lanes just because this mayor wanted to be the green mayor instead of having a city that is safe for all. And if you really care about green, then bring a transportation system that works for all and create a kind of culture around public transportation.
You made it more of a rapid transit type thing.
Right. Well, the bus rapid transit thing, that's another
Whole
question.
Question.
Because the first time that I heard about the bus rapid transit coming to White Plains was because since I read everything, I was reading everything that comes to my from the city from City Hall, all the documents that comes for approval. I read everything. So there is this one line in the project 60 South Broadway, 2.5 years ago, that came from a communication from the Westchester Planning Department.
Mm-hmm.
And it said something about 60 South Broadway should pay attention what is happening with the upcoming BRT.
Really?
So when they had that meeting,
60 South Broadway is where the pavilion was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I can show it to you because since I thought that we were going to be talking a little bit about the train station, I brought a copy of that communication if you want to see it, and it's there, BRT, for the first time. So when there was this first meeting at the library about the multimodal train station studies, I went to the commissioner of traffic, that by the way is not the commissioner of traffic anymore. As you are aware, traffic and parking consolidated. And Mr. Soik now is the deputy commissioner of the parking, which, by the way, I voted against that consolidation. I think that that's not appropriate, but that's a different story. And I asked him at that meeting, I said, what's happening with the BRT? The city administration has never mentioned BRT, never. And I have to hear this from the county.
Spend $13 million on it.
Yes.
But we don't know exactly what that $13 million is going to buy, when the buses are going to arrive, where the stops are actually going to be.
Getting into some of the more specific issues with regard to planning and zoning and so forth, how do you define spot zoning, first of all?
Spot zoning is what's happening right now. That means that a developer comes, see the potential of a site, and develops a project, and then analyzes all the environmental impact around specific area. But then there is another developer that comes, and a couple of a mile from there is another project, the same thing, but they're not working together. So the cumulative effect of the traffic that this project causes and the traffic that this other second project can cause, they are not studied together. And although they said so, but there is no documentation that really proves it. You don't see a plan in place. So that's why it's very important that the comprehensive plan is being updated. The comprehensive plan now is 10th year, in its 10th year, and that was already an update that was done in a rush. You remember? So in 2007 was because also the residents were demanding that update, and it was done like this. So there is already many flaws in that updated comprehensive plan.
What do you think about, instead of having a comprehensive plan, we have a regulation in the planning department of doing the annual review of planning?
It's a good thing that you brought that up. I actually was going to mention that. Many years ago, the comprehensive plan, 10 years, made sense. But nowadays, the technology changes so fast. The population is growing so fast. And if you read the comprehensive plan, our comprehensive plan, actually it says to review the comprehensive plan every year, and that wasn't done. So this administration started doing kind of something called an update, which wasn't an update, it was just pictures of projects that were in the pipelines or something like that. Then this year there was a review, which is a similar thing. An update of the look, we passed complete streets ordinance. I don't know if you realize what it is, but complete streets is when the streets are not just for cars, it's not just for buses, but it's for everything that is supposed to be on
You
the
have
streets.
to take into account pedestrians,
Exactly.
bike riders,
Exactly.
etc.
Therefore, when you do street renovation, not only you renovate the street, but you also take care of the sidewalks, which the administration is not doing. So, but here we go back to the review. So, Complete Streets was passed. Complete Streets is not in the comprehensive plan. We passed a historic preservation board creation. That historic preservation board is also not part of our comprehensive plan. We have sustainable practices that we didn't have 10 years ago. That is not part of our comprehensive plan. We passed a disaster plan as thick as this and full of wonderful information. That is not part of the comprehensive plan. Right. Do you know how many zoning changes we have done in the last 10 years? How many?
Quite a few.
Many. None of those are in our comprehensive plan. And I could keep on going. So that's why every year we need to have that review. Every year.
But if the economy is going as fast as it is and is changing as rapidly as it is, how can a comprehensive plan, which takes many, many months to develop, when you involve everybody, how can it not be a moving document?
Exactly, it has to be. It has to be a moving document. And because it is a moving document, then you don't need to have all this massive group of people working on it. The reason why the comprehensive plan, the update, becomes so complicated is because you wait 10 years.
Yeah, well, it's not only documents which haven't moved, but there are projects which haven't moved.
Exactly.
French American School, for example. What is happening with that, and what would you do as mayor regarding approval of the French American School or final disapproval of it?
Okay. Well, as you know, this is a project that has been now in front of us for 7 years. And the status at the present time is that they are looking into the site plan, meaning the French American School are looking into their site plan because that's what is missing, the site plan and the special permit approval. So it's also, there was a judge was involved and a settlement supposed to be in place with dates and deadlines. My understanding is that we are behind schedule, but it's because they are the ones that are on hold. Yeah. So we don't know. The rumor is that they are back on the table redesigning something.
Really?
Now, the last proposal, they only show one parcel, which is a concern to me, because this is not a one parcel site, it's a 4 parcel site. And why they're only showing in the documents one parcel, it's a concern, because that's telling me that they don't want us, residents and the legislators, to see what could be done with the rest of the property.
Yes, but as mayor, would you invite the various parties in to try to negotiate a compromise deal, or would you say to the French American School, you're just not wanted here, why don't you take the message and go someplace else?
They own the land, Peter. You just cannot go. It's like I go to you and said, Peter, I don't want you in White Plains anymore. Pack and leave. I mean, lawsuit here, there.
You can't do that.
So we have to be realistic. Negotiating, compromising is always diplomacy. All this is the way.
Would you defend the suit no matter what the decision is by the council, or would you try to negotiate a settlement with whomever sues you, whether it's FASNY or the Gedney Association?
Yeah, because no matter what the lawsuit, my understanding is no matter what, a lawsuit will be there from one end or the other. You listen, the site is zoned for an open recreational, like what we have right now, the golf club or what we had, or residential. When you go around asking people, they wouldn't mind to have the residential component. My biggest concern when I see the French American School right now, after looking at the budget that the administration passed, which, by the way, Councilman Crowley and myself didn't approve the budget because it really showed a lot of areas of concern. But with that said, we cannot afford to just let $400,000 in taxes, in revenues. And that's what we were getting from that site. So we need to look into sources of revenues for White Plains with the tax cap and the sales taxes coming down tremendously. And I don't see with this administration really any initiative being put in place. And now we are giving away a site that was providing with $400,000. So, and not only that, but it's taking over services.
Jim?
Apropos of taxes and revenues and so forth, retail space, there's a lot of vacancy. I walked through the Galleria and the Westchester in the last couple of days. And there are substantial, well, maybe not necessarily substantial, but there's a lot of vacancy, particularly in the Galleria, as well as on the street. And people are buying retail online. What do you think is going to happen with it? We're also proposing a tremendous amount of residential development. But I think Michael Craver pointed that we're developing a transient population. You're developing basically 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and studios. And that's not necessarily long-term residency. How would you deal with this, and what do you think what things do you think we can do?
I think that we are touching here 2 different areas but at the end they kind of come to the same thing. The Galleria, as you know, now it's owned by a different person. So the rumor, because again we don't get information, is that the new owner is working on a new plan, and maybe that's also the reason why more stores are leaving the Galleria. Maybe. Yes, the internet is a real cause for what's happening with stores, but when you analyze what's happening in White Plains, is the county seat. Why is it that the county sales taxes is up? Yonkers sales taxes is up. New Rochelle sales taxes is up. How is it that White Plains County seat, we are $700,000 in sales taxes down? And when, yes, one store opens, another one closes. Now, going back to the what you mentioned, Craver, and he's right. But in addition to that we are creating a population with this type of development that doesn't necessarily and most likely invest in White Plains in the future. But when we are creating those TODs, which is the transit-oriented development, and the city just created one on the Hamilton area where the White Plains Galleria is. We also need to be very careful what that means, because we could be in the danger of creating a dormitory city. Because this is people that is coming from Brooklyn, is coming from New York City, right? And they are looking for cheaper housing, but they still will work and entertain in New York City, in Brooklyn. So they will come here to sleep, where it's cheaper to sleep. And then they will walk to the train station the next morning, and then they will not invest in White Plains.
Yes. Is the city taking the demands of these new residents into its planning? What should they be looking at as far as infrastructure, sewage capacity?
Right.
Is the city looking at that seriously now?
No. And if they are, they haven't told us. Yeah. Infrastructure, I was looking at reading again some articles from the past on development in White Plains, and I happened to run into this article from a local paper, February of last year. And the concern of the article was all this development that is coming and how it's going to be affecting the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Well, this was in February of 2016. As you know now, September 1st yeah. of 2017, many more developments have been proposed. But guess what? If they are all built, yes, we are going to have a problem in infrastructure. What is the capacity of our schools? I mean, already traffic on rush hours in certain areas in White Plains is terrible. But the thing is that these developments are not happening.
Well, let's see. They made an arrangement with 55 Bank Street, I believe,
But that's
to look
from
at
that
the-
was
yeah,
approved in the Delfino
yeah,
administration.
I see.
And this was not
But
something
an
now.
infrastructure liability I think was negotiated with them. But be that as it may, they should be doing more of that.
The buildings that are coming, these projects, none of them has shown what is called a risk assessment.
Uh-huh.
None of them has provided with a risk assessment. I mean, there are all these very fancy terminologies that I could tell you and then explain you that we don't have. We don't have design guidelines. Mm-hmm. We don't have urban design. We have a planning, department with an urban planner, but we don't have in place urban design.
Yes, but people who vote don't understand this. They don't comprehend.
You're right.
So, as a mayoral candidate, what is your simple message to people?
I am going to keep on protecting the neighborhoods. I am going to keep on protecting the local jobs and the small businesses in White Plains. So when you talk about the fire department, that we don't have enough firefighters, this affects our residents, the safety of our residents. When you talk about that this administration is balancing the budget by having 20% of the city's revenues based on parking revenues, there is a problem with that, because that means that you and we all here are going to be paying tickets. Now, in addition to that, this budget again shows another increase of 5% more on parking revenues. 5% of the city's revenue are going to be coming again in addition to the 20%.
I think they're raising the parking
This
rates,
is maybe
right?
the second or third city in the United States to have such a high percentage coming from a parking department.
But looking ahead, if you want to increase public safety staff and equipment, etc., how are you going to pay for that?
Priorities. Mm-hmm. We have a chief of staff corporation counsel that makes $208,000 a year. I think that in his capacity, maybe he's also like the second highest paid person in the state. He makes $40,000 less than the president of the United States. So it's about priorities. Mm-hmm. I am going to be looking where accountability is coming and how can we consolidate maybe other departments, but under a different kind of mirror, where I think it's going to be more efficient. But we have a tax cap. This administration, with the bad budget that we have in place, they haven't mentioned anything about the tax cap. They only say, oh, we cannot raise, we cannot do this or that because the tax cap is limiting our possibilities. Well, the mayor gave himself a raise last year and the year before also, and all these commissioners that he is protecting, they are all getting raises. And I am fine. If people deserve it, go ahead. I love it when people really gets paid what they deserve. But when I see that somebody like the Corporation Counsel Chief of Staff, that really, under my point of view, and for me as a council person, hasn't really served in the capacity that he should, because he doesn't, he's not responsive at all. Why should I be agreeing to pay this person $208,000? Why are we paying people that is working for the mayor under some kind of titles, economic development, blah, 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 when we know that this person doesn't have the accreditation? He's taking a salary of 6 figures, and that's paid by taxpayers instead of having the person that could.
So if you're elected, would you clean house at City Hall?
I will clean houses in City Hall. I will clean houses in City Hall. Yes.
And let's take a look at the transit district and the plan to revise the entire transit district and what it's like. You said the other night that you had a plan for developing Battle Hill. Could you explain that?
Well, having a plan for developing Battle Hill is too much of a big words, right? Mm-hmm. But what I was specifically saying is, first of all, this multimodal transit center study, I think was a fake study. Mm-hmm. When you look at all the other studies that has been done in the past, they didn't bring anything new. The only thing that they brought new is that the state paid $1 million, and that we in the city of White Plains had a matching fund of $250,000. We were told that Brinkeldorf, the consultants, was about what, 650,000, something like that. So where is the rest of the money? I've been asking, for month and month, no response. So the only thing that plan brought was to revive that there were other plans in place where we wanted to bring up parking in that area, and that the train station needed to be revisited, etc. With that said, what I was proposing is that after saying that it was really a waste of opportunity, because we have a beautiful neighborhood that is Battle Hill, that is totally disconnected from White Plains. So if anything, this study that lasted a year and 3 months should have made a bigger effort, actually an effort, because they didn't do any effort, to connect Battle Hill and downtown, and vice versa. And the way that you do that is not just by creating what we could call a crossway, that is what I was proposing, but also you need to bring something special in that other side, that so that the people that lives in the other side of the track would like to go over the pass, and then the flow is both ways.
Anything in on the request for proposals for the 4 parcels the city has put out for possibilities for development? Anything come of that yet?
No.
No, you haven't seen anything?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay.
But one of the parcels down there that is a parking lot, on Sundays we don't have that much parking down there. Why haven't been taking one of those parking lots on Sundays and bring the farmers market there? Bring a family type of activities. When you go to Irvington on a Sunday, they have their farmers market there on Sundays. Lots of families, kids running, parents with pushing their strollers, their ice cream, they have ice cream, they're sitting on the table to have hot dogs. I mean, it's beautiful. And why can't we have something that's not going to cost any money? The parking lot is there empty, and people would not have to pay parking because it's a Sunday.
In our last minute or so,
oh, that's it?
What's your message to voters? September 12th, Democratic primary. What's your message to the voters when they're making their decision?
My message is vote for me, because I am the candidate that is going to be able to bring good change, the real change that all the residents in White Plains really need to see happen. I will bring integrity, I will bring vision, and not only that, but I will bring everybody together. Everybody has to feel that they have, and everybody has an interest. They are investing in White Plains, but they need to see that we care what they think, that we appreciate the value that they bring to the city, that they are part of the city, and not that the city is run by a few people in City Hall with the closed doors.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to tell us very quickly about your 3 running mates?
Yes, thank you very much. My 3 running mates are Alan Goldman, Michael Craver, and Sad Sadiki. And they are 3 great White Plains residents, extremely dedicated. We are really the face of White Plains when you see our slate. We have a person that is a business person downtown, very well known in the community. We have a Muslim that has a little child. We have a lawyer that has kids in the public school system. And then Sad Siddiqui. And Michael Craver is a lawyer also and has schools in the public system. Sad Siddiqui is also a criminal lawyer and an immigration lawyer. And I am an urban planner and an architect, a trained architect. So as you can see, we are really a diverse slate. Our opponents, 4 white male lawyers. Nothing against lawyers. Right. We have 2, but we are the face.
You have been heard. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
John Bailey.
Thank you for
Katz,
having me.
Jim Benroff. Good night.